Do you ever crochet something and then when you're done, you sit back and look at it and be like, damn, I did that? Well, this is one of those projects for me. When I got a picture of something close to this from a client, I knew I could get a tutorial for it somewhere on YouTube, but I did not want to do that. I wanted to create something original, something my own, and I did. And while at it, I filmed this tutorial that you're going to be watching today. I hope you're going to enjoy the tutorial. If you do, don't forget to like, comment, and share. Welcome back to Ladenser Crochets. If you're new here, you're welcome. Kindly subscribe and join the family, and let's get into the tutorial. We start out by making a magic ring, and this is how I make my magic ring. So I just twist the yarn like that, put the hook in that space, and pull up the longer side of the yarn. And there we have the magic ring. Next, we chain 2, 1 and 2, and the chain 2 is not a stitch. Then after that, yarn over, insert the hook into the ring, yarn over and pull up a loop to get 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2 to complete a double crochet. Then into the same ring, we place a second double crochet, and then we're going to work a total of 12 double crochets into that ring. This is my last double crochet, and once I'm done, I'm going to get the shorter side and pull it and fasten so that we close up that space. To complete the round, insert the hook onto the first double crochet, not the chain but the double crochet. Then I'm going to bring up that shorter end and slip stitch like that. Then I'm going to work over that end as I work round 2. So chain 3, and the chain 3 in round 2 is our first double crochet. Yarn over, insert the hook into that first stitch and do a double crochet so that we have 2 double crochets into the same stitch. Then chain 1. Then we're going to skip over to the next stitch and place 2 double crochets into that stitch. So that's 1 and 2. Again, chain 1. So chain, skip to the next stitch, the third stitch that is, and place 2 double crochets into it. So that's 1 double crochet and the second double crochet. Chain 1 again, into the next stitch, place 2 double crochets. So that's 1 and 2. This is the pattern that we're going to repeat all the way around. So at the end of round 2, I'll have a total of 24 double crochets, 2 into each of the stitch, separated by a chain 1. I'm coming to the end of round 2 and I'm working the 2 double crochets in that very last stitch. So now let me count and confirm that there are 12 clusters of 2 double crochets each. Yeah, so right there, that's 12. So at the end, I'll chain 1, then slip stitch onto the chain 3 at the beginning. Actually, I'll do the slip stitch in between that chain and the first double crochet. Then chain 1 and then cut off the yarn at that point. We are done with the black, so cut the yarn, pull through and fasten. After the 2 rounds, I'm going to get the gray, and then I'll work round 3 with the gray. Start with a slip knot. Then get that circle and slip stitch on the chain 1 space that is just close to where I've ended the previous round. Then I'm going to work over those ends as I work round 3. Chain 3, and the chain 3 is our first double crochet. Then I'm going to go back into that chain 1 space and place 2 double crochets. So that's 1, and then I'm going to work a second double crochet into the same space. Then I'm going to chain 2. So chain 1 and 2, and go back into that space with 3 more double crochets. So we're going to have our first corner right there. We are creating this into a square now. So that's our first corner. After that, we're going to chain 1, not 2, but 1. Then go into the next chain 1 space and place 3 double crochets into that space. So that is 1. Then we have 2 and the third double crochet. Again, chain 1, skip into the next space and place 3 double crochets. So that's 1, 2, and 3. Then we chain 1 into the next chain 1 space. We place 3 double crochets, and this is where the second corner is going to be. So I'm going to work 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 more double crochets into the same space. So that's 3 double crochets. Next, I'm going to chain 2, and then I'll go back into the same space with 3 more double crochets. So that's 1, 2, and 3. Now, as you can see, we have the corner, 2 double crochets clusters, 2 clusters of 3 double crochets each, then another corner. So I'll chain 1 and I'll work a cluster of 3 double crochets into the next space. So that's 1, 2, and 3. Then again, chain 1 into the next space, 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. Chain 1, move on to the next space, and that's going to be our third corner. So we're going to work 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 more double crochets into the same space. I know this doesn't really look like a square, but don't worry, we're going to get there. So chain 1, and then into the next space, place 3 double crochets. So 1, 2, and 3. Chain 1, the next space gets 3 double crochets. So 1, 2, and 3. Then chain 1. The next space is going to be the fourth corner. So right there, I'm going to work the 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 more double crochets. Chain 1, and then 3 double crochets into the next space. So we have 2 spaces remaining, and both of those will get 3 double crochets each. So that's 3 in the first one. And then I'll chain 1 and do 3 double crochets into the very last chain 1 space. So I have my 3 double crochets, so I'll chain 1 and slip stitch in between the chain 3 and the first double crochet. I'm done with round 3, so we're going to do round 4 now. And to do that, we're going to slip stitch into the second double crochet, then slip stitch into the chain 2 space, then chain 3. This is round 4, so chain 3, begin in that corner, do the 3 double crochets, so the second double crochet, then the third, chain 2, and do 3 more double crochets into that same space. So we have 1, 2, and 3. Now in this round, we are not going to chain in between the 3 double crochets, so we're going to skip over to the first chain 1 space without chaining. So right there we do 3 double crochets. Then in the next space, we also work without chaining, work 3 double crochets, 1, 2, and 3. Again, in the next space, we work without chaining, place 3 double crochets, 1, 2, and 3. And now we are at the second corner, so right here we're going to work 3 double crochets. So that's the second double crochet and the third, then chain 2 and place 3 more double crochets to make the corner. So that's 1, 2, and 3. Without chaining, we're going to work into the next space. So those are 4 clusters of 3 double crochets each. So in the first one, without chaining, we do 3 double crochets. Then we're going to do 3 double crochets into each of those spaces. So this is 2. We have 3 clusters of 3 double crochets each in between the corners, not 4 as I've mentioned earlier. So that's the second one, and I'm going to work the third cluster of 3 double crochets, making sure that there are no chains in between them. And then I'll get to the corner, and at the corner I'll do 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 more double crochets. Then this is a pattern that I'm going to repeat to the end of round 4. I'm placing my last 3 double crochets into the last space. To complete the round, slip stitch in between the chain 3 and the first double crochet, chain 1, and cut off the yarn. Then pull the yarn through and fasten. And now we're going to do the last round, which is a round that I'm going to work with black yarn. So yeah, as you can see, the corner, the square is starting to take shape. So now get the black or whatever color you're working with. So I'll start with a slip knot, and I'm going to connect the yarn at the point where I've cut off the gray. Okay, actually at the corner before the point where I have cut off the yarn, so that I'll be able to work over that end. So slip stitch right there, then chain 3, which is our first double crochet, go back into that space with 1 more double crochet. Those are 2, then chain 2, back into the same space with 2 more double crochets. Then next we'll work on top of the double crochet from the previous round, and this is my first double crochet. So right there I'll work a double crochet, then a double crochet on top of the previous double crochet, and each of the double crochets in between the corners are going to get one double crochet each. So go on to the next corner. I'm going to work over this end as I go. That's the last double crochet, and now I'm at the corner. So in the corner I'm going to work 2 double crochets, so that is 1 and 2. Then I'll chain 2 and go back into that corner with 2 more double crochets, so that is 1 and 2. Then on top of the double crochets I'll place 1 double crochet up to the next corner, then repeat the pattern to the end of round 4. At the end of the round, we slip stitch in between the chain 3 and the first double crochet, then chain 1 and cut off the yarn, pull the yarn through and fasten, and the square is done. So I'm going to need a total of around 70 squares. So I'm going to make the 70 squares and then I'll come back and show you how to join them. So go on, make the 70 squares. You can make more just in case the 70 are not enough. I've actually not counted the squares. So now I'm going to weave in the end. I have my squares ready. I've actually done 50 of them, but I still have some extra black circles that I'll do the rest of the squares as I go. So yeah, let's get to connecting them. I'm going to connect a total of 6 squares first. So these are my first 6 squares, and the 6 squares will give me the length of the sweater that I'm making, the length of the cardigan. So get 2 of the squares and make sure that you're working on the wrong side of the squares. I'm going to do the first connection with the darning needle, and then the other connection I'll show you how we'll be doing that. We are connecting the squares in 2 different ways. So the first one is using the darning needle. So I'll go in the first corner of the 2 squares, and right there I'll tie a knot, 2 knots actually. So I'll make the first knot very tightly, then I'll make the second knot, and now I'll start joining the corresponding stitches. So starting with the first double crochet after the corner and the first double crochet on the other side, I'm going to work over that end just to weave it in. So then we move on to the next stitches, and I'll connect all the way to the next corner. So just make sure that your stitches are well aligned. I'm at the corner and I'll connect those two corners. So go into that space and then I'll make a knot at that very last corner. So make a knot, fasten, and then weave in that end onto the stitches. Make sure that you're doing this from the wrong side, like I mentioned. So weave in the end. Once your end is hidden, cut the yarn off, and there we have the two squares connected. So I'll get a third square and I'll connect it the same exact way I've connected the first two. Then I'm going to connect a total of 6 squares. So I'll do 6 first, then I'll do 12. After connecting the 6 squares, this is what we have, and that is the length of the cardigan that I'm working. If you want your cardigan longer, you're going to add more squares. If you want it shorter, you're going to work with fewer squares than 6. I've also gone on to connect the 12 squares, and this represents double the length of the cardigan. The 12 squares represent both sides of the cardigan, that is the front and the back, and then the one that has 6 only represents the back. So this is how we're going to align our work. Next, we're going to work 6 rectangles. They are not squares, right? So this is half of the cardigan. So one half will have the 6 rectangles, the other half will have another 6. So that means I'll work a total of 12 rectangles. So let me show you how to do the rectangle. We're going to begin the same exact way we did the square, but then it's going to be slightly different. Start with the usual ring, then chain 2, which is not a stitch. And then we're going to work a total of 8 double crochets into the ring. For the squares, we did 12. So now we are working 8. So let me work my 8 double crochets. After the 8 double crochets, we fasten with the short end and slip stitch onto the first double crochet that we did. Then I'm going to work over that end, so slip stitch and chain 3. The chain 3 is our first double crochet. Then work a double crochet into that stitch so that you have 2 double crochets in that first stitch. Chain 1. In the second stitch, place 2 double crochets. So that is 1 and 2. And repeat the pattern to the end, the same exact way we did with the other one. So chain 1, 2 double crochets. In total, I'll have 16 double crochets at the end of round 2. Complete the round by working a slip stitch onto the first chain 3, then chain 1 and cut off the yarn. Then we're going to fasten, pull the yarn through and fasten, then I'll connect the gray. So I'm just confirming the number of 2 double crochet clusters that I have, and now I'll get the gray. Start with a slip knot and then get the circle, slip stitch into that space after the end where we've ended the previous round, that is. So slip stitch and chain 3, 1, 2 and 3, go back into that space with 2 double crochets. So together with the chain we'll have 3, so that's the second double crochet, and I'll work a third one, then chain 2 and go back into that space with 3 more double crochets to create the first corner. So that's 1, and then we have 2, then 3. Chain 1 so that we can move to the next space. So chain into the next chain 1 space, place 3 double crochets, just 3. So that's 1, 2 and 3. Chain 1 again and go into the next space, and that next space, the third space, will be the second corner. So we're going to work 3 double crochets there, that's the third, then chain 2 and go back into that space with 3 more double crochets. So that's 1, 2 and 3. Chain 1, then in the next space place 3 double crochets. So we have a corner, 3 double crochets, another corner, and that is a pattern that I'm going to repeat to the end of round 3. So 3 double crochets, chain 1, the next space gets a corner. I'm coming to the end of round 3 and I've done my last double crochet. So then I'll chain 1 and slip stitch in between the chain 3 and the second double crochet. Then I'm going to slip stitch into the next stitch and slip stitch into the chain 2 space so that I can begin round 4. Chain 3 and place 3 double crochets. So that's 2 and 3, chain 2. Actually we are not chaining, so this round we are going to go straight into the next space with 3 double crochets. The next space will also get 3 double crochets without chaining, no chains in between. So 3 double crochets, 1, 2 and 3, and the last space will get just 1 double crochet. Then chain 1 and cut off the yarn at that point, pull through and fasten. So that's what we have. We are extending on 2 sides while the other 2 remain the way they are. So start with a slip knot and connect the yarn on the other side of the square, connect right there, with a slip stitch, then chain 3, chain 3, back into that space with 2 more double crochets, because the chain 3 is our first double crochet, so that's the second and the third. Into the next space without chaining, place 3 double crochets, so that's 1, 2, and the third one. Again, in the next space, 3 double crochets. Make sure that you're not chaining. 3 double crochets into that chain 1 space. So that's 2 and 3, and then finally 1 double crochet at that corner. So 1 double crochet, then chain 1 and cut off the yarn. Pull the yarn through and fasten. Then we're going to get the black yarn. We're going to do an edging like this one. So I'm going to get the yarn and start with a slip knot. Get one of the corners on the chain 3, in between the chain 3 and the second double crochet, slip stitch right there, then chain 3, and that's our first double crochet on top of the chain 3. Then we're going to work a double crochet onto the next stitch, and we're going to place 1 double crochet into all the stitches across. I'm in the last stitch, and right there I'm going to work my last double crochet, and that is the end of that row. Actually, chain 1 and cut off the yarn, then fasten and turn to the other side, then do the same exact thing. So slip stitch, not slip stitch but slip knot, then connect the yarn and work that double crochet row. So slip stitch into the chain 3, then chain 3, go into the next stitch with a double crochet. Notice that I'm working over all the ends that I can work over, just to make sure that I do not have a lot of work weaving in the ends once I'm done with my work. So let me work to the end of this row. I'm done with that row, and I'm not going to cut off the yarn at this point. I'm going to chain 1, then I'll work on that edge. Starting with the first double crochet row, I'll place 2 single crochets there. So that's 1 and 2. In the next double crochet row, I'll work 2 single crochets. So that's 1, and then we have 2. In the double crochet, in the chain 2 space, I'll place a single crochet. Then we have the double crochet stitch. I'll work 1 single crochet, then 1 single crochet into the next stitch, 1 single crochet into the next single crochet. So right there, as you've seen, I've skipped the chain 1 spaces because I tried working all the stitches, and I realized that the stitches were too many, like it wasn't looking so pretty. So in the double crochet stitches, I'm working 2 single crochets. So 2 single crochets in that double crochet row, then 2 single crochets in the last row. Then we chain 1 and cut off the yarn at that point. Pull the yarn through and fasten. Then we're going to turn to the other side of the rectangle and do the same exact edging with single crochets. So beginning in the first row, which is the black row, I'm going to connect the yarn right there with a slip knot, a slip stitch. So slip stitch in that first row, and I'm going to work over those ends, all of them at the same time, just to weave them in. So right there, I'm going to chain 1, go into that double crochet row and place 2 single crochets. So that's 1 and the second one. The next row will get 2 single crochets. In the chain 2 space, place a single crochet, then 1 single crochet onto the double crochet stitch, 1 single crochet into the next stitch, and 1 single crochet into the next stitch. Then skip the space, work a single crochet on top of the next double crochet, onto the next, and onto the next one. Skip the space, then single crochet on the next 3 double crochets, 1 into each. So right here, this is the part where I had done slip stitches, and that is why it was a bit hard to go into those stitches, sorry. So single crochet into each of those 3 double crochets, then 2 single crochets in the double crochet row, then 2 single crochets at the end, then chain 1 and cut the yarn, then pull the yarn through and fasten, and we are done with the rectangle. And we're supposed to work a total of 12. So I'm going to go on, work the rest of the rectangles, then we're going to join them. So first of all, I'll weave in all the ends. After weaving and trimming off all the ends, this is what we have. So now I'll take 6 of these and join them. So we're going to join the same exact way we joined the squares, but we're going to join on the shorter ends, so like this. Make sure that you're doing the joining from the wrong side of the rectangle, and I'm going to do the joining using the darning needle. So get some yarn and put it through, then get one corner of the squares, the first stitch at that corner. Why am I calling them squares? Rectangles. So into the stitches at the corner, we go through the 2 of them, then make a knot, then another knot just to secure that part. Then in the next stitch, we're going to join the corresponding stitches on both sides and then join to the end. At the end, I'll make a knot and then weave in that end. Just hide it and cut off. Then I'll get a third rectangle and join it. Then I'm going to join a total of 6. I have my 6 rectangles ready, and now I'm ready to join them to the other part of the cardigan. I've already done half of the cardigan, and this is how it looks like. So let me show you. As you can see, I've gone on to do the front and the back of the cardigan, and also the sleeve. So I need to mirror whatever I've done on the opposite side. So now I'm going to take my other panel. So this is the panel that has 6 squares. So like I'll align it with this other half like this, and yeah, like that. That is part of the back of the cardigan. Then I'll get the other panel that has 12 squares. Now the 12, like I mentioned before, one is in front, the other one is at the back. Then I'll take the rectangles that I've just made and place them like this. So then the rectangles will be joined with the 6 squares, so that we have something like what we have on this other side. So right there I'll connect from each of the 2 corners. I'll just sew the 2 together. So this is how the cardigan should look like. As you can see, I've already completed that first half, and now I'm going to show you how to join the pieces of the other half. And then after that, I'll join the 2 halves together in order to complete it. So let me set aside the side that is done, then connect these pieces. For this part, make sure that you're working from the right side of the squares, and we're going to start with a slip knot. Then I've gotten the 12 squares, so I'll start at one of the corners, slip stitch to connect the yarn, then chain 5, so 2, 3, 4 and 5. Then I'm going to count 4 stitches, insert my hook into the 4th stitch and slip stitch, then chain 5 again. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Then count 4 stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, slip stitch into the 4th, again chain 5, 2, 3, 4, 5, count 4 stitches, 1, 2, 3 and 4, slip stitch into the 4th. So basically you're skipping 3 stitches, chaining 5 and skipping 3, again chain 5, skip the 3 or count the 4 stitches, 1, 2, 3 and 4, slip stitch into the 4th. Then I'm going to count to chain 5 again, so that's 2, 3, 4 and 5. At the end I'll skip all these stitches right here and I'll slip stitch into the corner of the 2nd square, then chain 5 and again count 4 stitches and slip stitch, chain 5, then count the 4 stitches, slip stitch into the 4th, chain 5 again and continue. So that's 5, count 4 stitches, slip stitch, chain 5, 4 stitches, slip stitch into the 4th, and you should have a total of 5 spaces, 5 chain spaces on each of the squares. So this is the 5th in the 2nd square, then slip stitch into the corner of the 3rd square. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So do that all the way to the end of the panel. Let me do that and then come back. I'm at the very end, and I'll do the last slip stitch into the last corner, chain 1 and cut the yarn at that point. So then fasten, then this is what we have. Then I'll turn to the other side and make sure that I'm still working on the right side of the squares, and I'm going to do the same exact thing that I've done onto that other side. So start with a slip stitch and then chain 5, then keep going to the end. So let me do that off camera and then come back. After doing those chains on both sides of my squares, this is what I have. And now I'm going to do to get the other panel that has the rectangles, make sure that I'm aligning them well and working from the right side. So here I just want to determine how I'm going to join them. So this is how they should be. So I'll just turn like this. I'm on the right side of my work. Then let's see. You have to be very careful because you don't want to join on the same side as the other panel, because if you do, then they're not going to align well, or you'll find that you'll have to turn one of the panels to the wrong side. So I'll start right here on the rectangle. So get the yarn, slip knot, slip stitch on that very first corner, then chain 2. So I'll start by chaining 1 and 2. Then I'll get the first corner of the first square. In the chain 5, do a slip stitch right there. So insert the hook like that and slip stitch. Then count, chain 2 again. After chaining 2, we're going to count 3 stitches, 1, 2, and 3. Insert the hook into the third and slip stitch. So the stitches on the rectangle are a bit fewer. So there are points when I'll count 3, there are points where I'll count 4. Next, we chain 2, 1 and 2. Get the next chain 5 and slip stitch into it. Then chain 2 again, 1 and 2. So this is what we have. Then on the rectangle we count 1, that's 1, 1, 2, 3 and 4, slip stitch into the fourth. So I'll be alternating between 3 and 4. The first one was 3, then this is 4, chain 2 into the next chain 5 on the square, slip stitch, and then chain 2, 1 and 2. Then on the rectangle we're going to count 3 now, 1, 2 and 3, then slip stitch, again chain 2, go into the chain 5 on the square and slip stitch, then chain 2 onto the rectangle. We're going to count 4 stitches. So that's, let's see, 1, 2, 3 and 4. Yeah, into that stitch do a slip stitch, then chain 2 into the next chain 5, do a slip stitch, chain 2. Then here we're going to slip stitch at the very end of that first rectangle. In that point of joining, that's where we do the last slip stitch, chain 2. Then you have to ensure that your square and the rectangle are well aligned like this. So then we move on to the next square and the next rectangle. We slip stitch into the chain 5, chain 2. So now we count 3 and slip stitch. So remember, on the rectangle you'll be counting 3, 4, 3, 4, 3, 4, and alternating like that. So I'll go on, connect until I get to the part where the rectangles end. So that is after the 6 rectangles, I'll join differently because I'll have gotten to the squares. I've come to the end of the rectangles, and for the next part I'll be joining a square with a square. So I'll do the counting differently because the stitches on the squares are completely the same as the squares on the other side. So I'll be counting 4 stitches in the squares. So I'll start with chain 2 into the next chain 5 on the other side. I'll do the slip stitch, then I'll chain 2. On this square I'll count 4 stitches, 1, 2, 3, and 4, then slip stitch, chain 2 into the next chain 5 stitch, slip stitch, so do the slip stitch right there, chain 2, 1 and 2, and then count 4 stitches on the square, and then continue like this to the end. I'm coming to the end and I'm just doing my last slip stitch, then chain 2 and slip stitch into that very last corner, and there we have the joint done. So then I'll chain 1 and cut off the yarn at that point. So cut it off, pull through and fasten. So now this is what we have. So right here, half of my cardigan is complete without the sleeves, and now it's time to do the sleeves. Turn your work like this and count from the shoulder part. We're going to count 8 chain spaces. So from here on the shoulder part, I'll count the 8 and then mark. So this is where the 8th is. So I'm going to mark on one side, then I'll get the yarn and connect the work. Connect the yarn on the eighth space on the other side. So let me do the slip knot. Then I'm going to count 8 from the shoulder part. So from here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Insert the hook into the 8th space, slip stitch, chain 2, get that 8th space on the other side and slip stitch right there. We don't need the stitch marker anymore, so I'll take it out. And then from there, that's our armhole. That is where we're going to connect the sleeves. So chain 2, and then go into the next chain and slip stitch. So just watch what I'm doing at this point. Chain 2 on the other side, on the chain 5, slip stitch, and this is what we're going to have on that joint. So chain 2 again on the chain 5 on this side, slip stitch, chain 2 on the next chain 5 on the other square, slip stitch, and continue all the way to the bottom part of the cardigan. At the end, I'll do my last slip stitch into that last corner right there. Then I'll need to chain 1 and cut off the yarn. So chain, then cut, pull the yarn through and fasten, and this is what we have. So now we have the armhole created right there, and we're going to work the sleeves, then attach them. With the sleeve, we're going to work 3 different panels with 3 squares each. So then we're going to make them into a round. So like I've already done the 3 panels. So now I'll just get the darning needle and attach on those 2 squares to complete the round. So let me do that for the 3 of them. I'm done doing the joining, and this is what we have. Then I'll get one of the three squares, like one of the panels, and start with a slip knot. Then I'll get a corner on one of the squares and slip stitch into that corner, slip stitch, then chain 5. So 1 2 3 4 and 5, then count the 4 stitches and slip stitch. So now we're going to do this all the way around that part of the sleeve. You already know how to do this part, so let me go all the way around, and then I'll show you how to complete at the end. At the end we chain 5, then slip stitch into the space where I started. So do the slip stitch there, chain 1 and cut the yarn, pull it through and fasten. Then I'll turn to the other side, tie the 2 ends together in a tight knot, and then after tying them I'll weave them in. So get the darning needle now and weave the 2 ends on the wrong side of my work. So now this is what we're going to have. Then I'll turn on the other side of the same sleeve and do the same number, the same chains. So start with a slip knot and do the chains on the opposite side. This is what I'll have once I'm done with those chains on the 2 sides of my work. Then I'll get the second part of the sleeve, connect with a slip stitch. So slip stitch in one of the corners of the 3 squares, then chain 2, then get one of the corners and slip stitch onto the chain 5 after the corner, then again chain 2 into the chain 5. We're counting 4, count 4 on the other square that we are connecting, chain 2 onto the next chain 5, slip stitch, then chain 2 on the square that we are joining. We count 4 stitches, so 1 2 3 and 4, slip stitch into the 4th, then chain 2 again and continue all the way around. So chain 2, go into the chain 5 and slip stitch, chain 2, 1 and 2, then count 4 stitches and continue. I'm at the end and I've already chained 2. Then my very last slip stitch will be in the stitch where I started. So in that corner where I started the connection, I'll do the last slip stitch right there, chain 1, cut the yarn, pull it through, and then I'll go onto the wrong side and tie the 2 ends together, then weave them in. After weaving in my ends, this is what we have. So now I'm going to get the 3rd piece and join it just like I've joined. So I'm going to go to the other side where I've already done the chains, get the next piece, start with a slip knot. So get your yarn, do the slip knot, and then connect the yarn at one of the corners of the 3 squares, then chain 2 and connect just like we've connected the other piece. So get the corner of the square on the other side, slip stitch on the chain 5 after the corner, chain 2, then on this side we count 4 stitches. So right here count 4, 1 2 3 and 4, slip stitch into the 4th, then chain 2, slip stitch into the chain 2, count 4 stitches on the piece that we are connecting and continue all the way around. I'm done with the sleeve, so the connection on the sleeve is done and now we're ready to join it to the cardigan. So we're going to get one of the sides of the sleeves, connect the yarn in one of the corners, get the main part of the cardigan, and that's where the sleeve is going to go. So then I'll get the yarn and I'll start on one of the corners of the sleeve, one of the corners of the squares on the sleeve. So slip knot, then slip stitch onto that corner, then chain 2, and now I'll turn my work like this, and I'm going to start on this point, that point of connection of the 2 squares. That's where I'll begin joining. Then I'm going to join all the way around. So slip stitch, then chain 2, count 4 stitches on this side, then slip stitch, then we're going to chain 2, so chain 2 right there, get the chain 5 on the square on the other side, slip stitch into the chain 5, chain 2, on this other side we count 4 stitches, 1 2 3 and 4, slip stitch into the 4th. So let me keep going around the sleeve part. When I get to the corner part of the armpit, I'm turning 2, then I'll slip stitch on this side and on the other side. So just watch what I'm doing here. I'm going into this part and the other part on the other square, then slip stitch right there. So that is how the armpit part will look like. Then I'll chain 2 and continue to the end. So that's the only part that's different, but all the other parts you just chain in 2, slip stitching, chain in 2, counting 4 stitches and doing a slip stitch into the 4th stitch. So let me continue to the end now. I'm in the very last part where I started, so right there I'm going to do my last slip stitch, then chain 1 and cut the yarn, then pull the yarn through and fasten, and now the sleeve is in place. So let me show you how my work is looking like right now. I'm loving how this is turning out. If you're enjoying the video, kindly leave a like, comment, share and subscribe. And if you wish to leave a gift for this video, you can do that by clicking on the thanks button. So now that I have my half of my cardigan ready, I'll need to make the other one, which I've already done. So you're going to go on, do the other half, and then we're going to join the 2 halves together. Once you have the 2 halves of your cardigan together, you're going to place them side by side like this, and then we're going to join in the very middle. So right there I'll get the yarn and connect, then join all the way from the top to the bottom, or from the bottom to the top. So right there I'll just turn my work, yeah, on that line, that's where I'm connecting. So I'll turn my work to the back part, then I'll join in the middle. So the joining on this part is completely the same as how we've joined on all the other parts. So beginning with that first square, I'll chain 2, then I'll get the chain 5 on the other side of my cardigan. Remember, this is the exact middle at the back part of the cardigan. So right there I'll slip stitch into the chain 5. So do the slip stitch, then chain 2. So chain 1 and 2, and then just continue joining all the way to the top. Then count the 4 stitches on this side and slip stitch. At the very end, I'll chain 2, then slip stitch into the last corner, chain 1 and cut the yarn. So cut the yarn at that point, pull it through and fasten. And now we have the cardigan complete. So this is the back part, and now turn this to the right, to the front part, and this is how it looks like at the front. Next, we're going to do a ribbing on the front part of the cardigan, and I'm going to start at one of the corners at the bottom part of the cardigan, insert my hook into that corner, and I'll get my yarn and slip stitch. So slip stitch, then chain 1, chain, sorry, I'm supposed to chain 1, not 3. So chain 1 and go back into that first stitch with a single crochet, then a single crochet into the next stitch, 1 single crochet right there, 1 single crochet into the stitch that follows, and we're going to work 1 single crochet into all the stitches till we get to the top of the cardigan. So let me keep going with 1 single crochet in every stitch. I'll meet you at the top part. I'm at the top, and now I'll just turn to the neckline part of the cardigan and continue with 1 single crochet into each of the stitches. So at the corner, I'm going to skip a stitch at the corner, then on the double crochet stitches on the squares, I'll do a single crochet into each of those double crochet stitches. So just 1 single crochet into every stitch. Then I'll get at the point of connection at the corner, make a single crochet into the into the corner, then chain 3. After chaining 3, we skip over to the other side, to the corner on the square on the other side, then continue with 1 single crochet into every stitch. I've gotten to the next corner, and I'll just turn and continue with 1 single crochet into all the stitches on the other side of the cardigan. So keep going all the way down. I'll meet you there. I'm at the very end in that last corner, so single crochet there, then chain 1 and turn to the back part. Then I'll continue with a single crochet edging. Start in that first corner, place a single crochet, In the next stitch, do a single crochet and do one single crochet into all the stitches. Then when we get to the corner where we've connected with the chains, we're going to make a chain of 3. So let me get to the corner of this first square, and once I get to that corner, I chain 3. So I'm at the corner now. Then I'm going to chain 1, 2 and 3, then skip over to the other square on the corner and continue with one single crochet in every stitch until you get to the next corner. When you get to the next corner again, you'll chain 3, then skip over to the square on the other side, then continue all the way to the end of that bottom part of the cardigan. At the end, I'm going to do a slip stitch in the stitch where I started, chain 1 and cut off the yarn. Then I'm going to pull the yarn through and fasten. Then I'll get a darning needle and weave in that end. This is what we're going to get after weaving, after that row of single crochet edging. And now we're going to get to the ribbon. I'm going to work the ribbon with the gray yarn, and I'm going to turn my work like this, then begin at the bottom part on the other side of the cardigan. You can actually start from the inside or from the outside of the cardigan. I'm doing this from the inside because that's where the stitches are very visible. So connect the yarn and chain 3. The chain 3 is our first double crochet in the first stitch. Then I'm going to work a double crochet into the second stitch, double crochet into the third stitch, and I'm going to place one double crochet into all the stitches all the way around the front part of the cardigan. This right here is the point where I'm going to end that row. So let me keep going with my double crochets, 1 into every stitch. When I get at the chain, I'm going to place 3 double crochets into that chain. So 1, 2 and 3. Then continue with the double crochets, 1 into every stitch. After working the double crochet row, this is what I have. And now I'm ready to begin the second row of the ribbon. I'll start by chaining 3, 1, 2 and 3 and turn, and that is my first double crochet. Then I'll yarn over and do a front post double crochet. So go around the second stitch like this and do a double crochet. Then in the next stitch we do a back post double crochet. Into the next stitch we do a front post double crochet. Then the next one we'll get a back post. Then we have front post double crochet in the next stitch, and we're going to alternate between a front post and a back post double crochet all the way around that part, that front part of the cardigan. So keep going, I'll meet you at the end. I'm coming to the end of the row 2 of the ribbon, and the very last stitch will be on top of the chain 3 right there. So you're not doing the front post or back post in the last stitch, then chain 3 and turn to begin the next row. We begin with the back post right there, then followed by a front post, double crochet, then a back post, then a front post. And I'm going to do row 3, then I'll do row 4. So in total I'll have 4 rows of the ribbon. Then once I get the 4 rows, I'll come back and show you what to do next. I'm coming to the end of row 4, and I'm just doing my last few double crochets, alternating the front post and the back post. So let me get to the end, and then this is the second last stitch, so I'll do the front post, and my last stitch is on top of the chain 3 from the previous row. So on top of the chain, insert the hook and do a double crochet there. So that's my last double crochet, and then I'm done with the ribbon on the front part of the cardigan. So let me show you how it looks like right now. So now this is what we have. Pretty awesome, right? So we are done with that ribbon on the front part, and now we're going to do the ribbon on the bottom part of the cardigan right here, and we're going to do the same exact thing. So I'll turn my work and begin from that point without cutting off the yarn. I'm going to chain 3, which will be my first double crochet. Then in that first row, double crochet row, I'll do a double crochet. So double crochet into that row, then 2 double crochets in the next row, then 1 double crochet into the next row. And now we get into the stitches. We do a double crochet into each of the stitches. So 1 double crochet into all the stitches in the squares. So just go on placing 1 double crochet on top of the previous double crochets until you get to the point where we have the chain, and in each of the chains we're going to place 3 double crochets. I'm at the chain, so in that chain I'll place my 3 double crochets. So that's 1, 2 and 3. Then the next double crochet stitch gets a double crochet, and then I'll continue all the way to the end of the bottom row, and then I'll do the front post and back post rows, and then I'll be back once I'm done with the ribbon at the bottom part. Now once you've done the first row of double crochets, you're just going to replicate whatever we've done on the front part of the cardigan, that is row 2, 3 and 4, with the front post and the back post double crochets. So I'll finish that off camera and then come back. This is how my cardigan will look like once I'm done with that ribbon at the bottom part, and it's very neat. I'm loving how it's turning out. And at this point you can do the ribbon on the sleeves or leave them like that. I'm going to leave mine like that. I like them the way they are. So I'm done with the cardigan.